What's happening, family? It's your main man, TJ Chatman, back with another episode. And like this and the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about social injustice in America. And just when you thought it was over, it ain't over. It ain't over. And tonight is just one of them times where, enough is enough. What needs to happen, And so I decided to, bring in a couple of special guests who can actually, actually have some inside intel per se, things they've heard, things they've seen, and just to get their opinions on what has happened with this whole social injustice, aka the justice system, they call it. And so
as I like to call it, the injustice system.
The injustice system. and joining me like each and every week, my beautiful, talented co-host. She rocking the fro.
I know.
Going to throw it up. Going to throw it up.
I got the
Bam.
fro going on.
Just like that there.
Yes.
Morgan Williams in the house.
What's up?
And I already told you, I love it when you rock your natural.
I know.
And you're doing it.
I love it when black women rock their natural hair.
I'm trying to get into it,
Some of y'all been wearing that plastic stuff so long, we forgot how beautiful your hair really is.
Listen. Don't think y'all ain't gonna see no wig no more, because I'm gonna wear my wig.
Okay, hey, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Period.
So we're gonna get right into the show, man. Make sure you grab your glass of wine, your cognac, because this show is definitely going to be very interesting, the least to say. And joining me tonight is a very, very great friend of mine, and he's been in law enforcement on the correctional side. Joining us tonight on the black couch on blackout night.
And it's all black.
And it's all black.
For the people, we're all black,
Jose Gonzalez.
We're all black.
Jose Gonzalez, welcome to the show, brother.
I appreciate you having me, man. It's been a long time coming, man.
Hey, I told you I would get you on. It was just a matter of time, and who would have thought it would have been this time?
Yeah, man, it's a crazy time, man. I think something's got to give, bro, because you see it. It's all over. You can't even turn the TV on, and all you see is people dying. Cops doing what they're doing, all this looting. I'll be the first to say, man, I've been on both sides, and I think the protesting and the rioting and all that violence, I'm kind of with it. I'm kind of with, because I think
it's just like it gives you. It's like you get this. It gives you this feeling like
it's like a proud like a.
You can tell that people are really just
They tired of it.
They're tired.
They fed up.
It's just like a bully.
Now it is unfortunate that there are criminals or people who have ill intent that are taking advantage of this moment. But I think that we have to not let that overshadow the people that are out there for the reason that they're out there. You know what I mean? Is for this injustice. So I know me personally, I don't care to point out with the people that are with ill intent. You know what I mean?
It's good because it's like when you're in school and you got a bully.
Right.
That's why I said violence is necessary if you have a good cause, because if we're fighting for our rights and the
to just be treated like everybody else.
Like we're human beings.
And we ain't asking for we ain't asking for nothing else, nothing
I feel
crazy.
the same way you feel, and me and you spoke about this early on, and for me, you like music to my ears, because a lot of us feel exactly how you feel. We don't condone the riots. I said that I would say something a lot of people feel. We don't condone the riots. But right about now, we agree, because we done kumbaya, we done marched, we done protested. What's it going to take for people to really get it? And I think this time around, people are starting to kind of get it a little bit.
When you punch a bully in the mouth, he gonna leave you alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And figuratively speaking
now,
definitely.
We're not asking nobody
for this to stop.
Yeah,
but it's the complaining about, we don't need to hear the complaint. We know, we get it that there are people out there doing it, but we don't want that to take away from the
true cause, and what needs to happen.
And for those that don't understand the true cause, man, people are protesting, rioting, and even looting. All
taking advantage of what's happening.
But at the same time, some people are doing it because they're so angry because we don't have a justice system. We have an injustice system. We don't have police reform. All right. We don't have police accountability. We see racial injustice all the time, and people never really get what they need to get to really recoup and get the justice that they deserve.
Right, and I totally agree.
People are tired of that.
And people ask me all the time, it's like, hey, TJ, what do you think about, the rioting and the looting and everything that's happening? And I'm like, I don't condone it, but I understand why it's happening.
And there's nothing wrong with understanding it. Like, it's okay to say, I get it. I understand it.
But don't complain about it and you ain't doing nothing but sitting there and keep your mind closed.
I do have a problem with the person that is not doing it for the right. You know what I mean? Because you got some people that's like,
taking advantage.
I'm going to go get them J's so I can have them J's. Like, them people?
Yes.
Like, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I believe you're not allowed to say FTP because you can't say that if you're out there destroying. And asking for them to come get you.
Because it's a difference between looting and stealing.
You destroy your own community, and what they don't realize is that when you destroy your own community, that's your community. And you got to pay for that.
And I like that some of if you're a black-owned business, put your sign up there. Like, I think, there should be a rule. You know what I mean? Like, there should be some rules in place. If that's what we're going to do, we're going to say, okay, if y'all going to be out there, looting and tearing up, at least be sure that it's not a black-owned business. Because at the end of the day, black-owned businesses have the hardest time even getting their business. No matter how successful they are, they still don't walk the same walk as white-owned businesses walk. White-owned businesses slide. We damn near have to crawl again, because I'm thinking about my dad when he started his business. Like, he had to go through hell and high water to just get a signature to even get started. You know what I mean? You talking about somebody that's got contracts and he sweating bullets because somebody just won't sign the damn paper. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think we need to be, cautious of that to make sure that we aren't going to be making it, even harder for black businesses to recover from this.
Right.
That's a great point, Morgan. Very great point.
I agree with 100%. Now, Jose, my man. All right. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty because you've actually been on the side of law enforcement for some time. And my question to you is, what motivated you to become a correctional law enforcement officer?
Well, I'll keep it 100 with you. I looked at the credentials and I said, you're going to pay me that much to do that. I'll do that to pay the bills. It's what I thought was a good career until I got there.
Which leads me to my next question.
Speak on.
What was it like being correctional officer?
I'll start from the academy.
Okay. And
I won't, I just think that what they're teaching in those classrooms is not what you get when you get to the job. I feel like these instructors need to keep it real with them and stop selling them stories, selling them dreams and delivering nightmares, because they tell them that they're going to do this, a professional, we're a family, and they say all these stories, and it's not really like that when you get there. So like with me, when I started at the Department of Corrections, which is the state prison, and a lot of people don't see what happens behind those walls, man. I mean, you hear stories, you watch documentaries,
I hear about
seeing that stuff is
in
different, man. When you see, the racism and it's not even just racism. And that's why I start with the academy, because from the academy they teach you it's a us versus them mentality. So they don't ever tell you, yo, these guys in the blue suits, they're human beings. They don't. I don't feel like they teach that, because a lot of people go into work and I gotta deal with these pieces of shit today. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
I've heard that so many times in a shift change.
Right.
I gotta deal with these POSs. Like, bro,
so it's like that.
Just come to work and do what you gotta do, man. And You don't have to, they're men just like you, bro. Like, you could have made a mistake.
Yeah.
And been in jail for
But it makes sense because it
for
sets the
something dumb.
tone for when they are out there. So they are already in the mind frame of
They don't care about me.
You a piece of shit.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, treat everyone like a human being. Like, if you a criminal and you did something, I ain't got nothing to do with me, man. I'm paid to keep you behind that door, keep you fed, and keep you safe. I'm not here to do nothing but that. Now, if you warrant me going in there for some reason, that's different.
Right.
But we ain't just gonna come and beat people, and I'm not doing that. For no reason. I'm not just gonna beat somebody for no reason. I'm not gonna beat nobody. Now,
Right.
I've had to where, I've had to shoot the fair one with people, and then the next day it's just like a fight on the schoolyard back in the day. Hey man,
Wow.
my bad. I was having a bad day.
Right.
Hey man, it's cool, man. This is just my job. It's business, dude.
So what are some of the things that you hear when a person has gotten arrested? They're dropping them off at the jail. What are some of the things that you're hearing from law enforcement officers as they're dropping them off?
Well, I didn't work intake, so I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I was there, but it's not really like you don't really hear like it's, hey man, this guy, he's got this, and it's really like a pass on. It's not really like you don't really see like hey, this guy's being whatever. Like there's no name call or anything like that. But it's really just a pass on. I haven't really seen nothing. Like when I worked for the Summer County Sheriff, I never really saw anything foul like that per se. But at the state, I did see a lot of ugly things, and that's kind of what turned me off to all this.
What were some of the other things you saw?
I worked at Lake CI, which is it's one of I think 3 psych prisons in the state of Florida, and I witnessed one time a lieutenant. I didn't witness that. I was called to hold the camera for a use of force because that's how they do it at the state. If they use force, somebody has to film it so you can see that nobody was beaten. So what they did was 5 officers jumped on one. We used to call them bugs because it was a psych camp, and these, So they jumped on one guy and beat him till he was bleeding out of his face, and he was handcuffed. He was handcuffed, and the lieutenant who was the.
Wait a minute. So if I understand you correctly,
Yeah, you heard right.
they filmed.
No, they ain't filming.
They filmed him being handcuffed.
No. That's how they play it. So we gonna beat you, and then he's gonna come film it after we cuff you and do all that. That's what I saw. I'm only telling you what I saw.
No.
And then he wanted me to film it, and I refused. I said I ain't doing that. And he told me
if I'm gonna film something, let's film the whole thing.
Well, I didn't see what happened, so I just saw the aftermath.
Okay.
And I'm not with that. And I already knew, we used to call them Cowboys. I already knew what y'all was doing. And I'm not a part of that.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to be a part of that, so I'm not filming anything. So he was
brother, let me ask you a question. Did you ever tell anybody else? Because that's the problem. That's another reason why people are protesting, because, you see this and we see you a good brother. You one of the good ones. But did you ever say to anyone else what's going on?
He's about to tell you. He's about to tell you.
How do you tell somebody, hey man, hey Cap beating these dudes down? Oh, take care of it. And then you find out that homie's down with all that shit.
Yeah. And then guess what? They're going to start treating him
They're
different.
going to start treating you different.
I mean, that didn't happen to me. But I mean, I know who's who.
Yeah.
Right.
So who do you run to? You got to pay bills and you got to feed your kids. Who do you tell?
There is nobody for them to tell.
So that's why they out here rallying for police reform. So that way when a brother like this come forth and say, hey, this is wrong.
And the gentleman that just got murdered, and how do you not hold each other accountable?
How do you not say, hey, we okay, let's put him in the car now? That's what I'm
Get
understanding.
your man, boy. Like,
right.
Hey, he good. We already got him.
You
cuffed.
You cuffed.
Good.
It's over.
It's for you. He listen.
No, he got to learn a lesson. He got to learn. Hey, don't tell me how to do my job and da 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 da. You seen it.
If you cuff him,
you've seen it.
The fight is over. Even if that man, which he didn't, even if that man gave you a 2-piece and a biscuit.
Yeah.
After you cuff him, it's over.
That's it.
It's over. There's no knee on the back of the neck. There's none of that. You put him in the car. If you watch the video, somebody even told him, hey man, get in the car. He was like, I will. Bro, if you hear that, hey man, let's get him up, put him in the car. If you kick and scream in the car. That's not your property anyways.
Yeah.
Put him in the car.
So, and that's why, for those that are like, oh, I don't understand what it's about. Listen, it's about these type of things. It's about police accountability. You know what I'm saying?
And that accountability, like, it only goes so far because who do you tell, man?
Yeah, who do you tell?
Because then if you go to tell him, hey, Sarge, man, come on, I can't do this, then you're going to be labeled.
Unless you have someone there's a sergeant or something in place that you know what I mean?
Yeah, but even then, because sometimes...
Because even they can't...
I have friends that are high-ranking, and even they tell me, like, hey, man, just stay away from
they know.
Because you know how it is.
They know behind it.
They know.
So that's why there's a need for reform. Maybe a solution for something like that if we had like an independent...
I think it's happening, man. I think it's happening.
I hope so.
Because I ain't never seen no cop buying popsicles for the whole hood. I saw that today.
Or marching.
I never seen that
holding
before.
signs.
So it takes all this rioting and all this crazy stuff to happen for you to start buying popsicles and playing basketball with people in the hood? That's what it takes? I mean, granted, there's people that do it already. But now you filming, hey, I'm buying,
it's for sure.
But you know what? We don't need photo ops. We need results.
Yeah, bro.
And that's the thing that brings me to, my next question, which is, are you still in...
No, man, I'm not. I'm glad I'm not.
So, tell us what happened. Like, why are you no longer
well
with corrections?
I'm actually happy that everything that happened to me happened, because I probably wouldn't be sitting here in front of you if it didn't happen. Because, like I said earlier, it starts from the academy, bro. And when you get to that agency or wherever you work, if you're not careful, ego, remember I told you earlier, ego consumes you. And it doesn't only consume you. Some cops they don't get consumed with, I gotta beat you up, hey, I'm the cop, and with the criminals. It's not that. Sometimes you take that ego and you take it home, and you hurt the ones you love. So that's what I'm saying. Like, all these things you teach in the academies, you gotta tell these kids, hey man, you got a wife, you gotta be careful. You got kids, you gotta be careful, man, because this will consume you. These guys, how many cops kill themselves a year because of stress?
Yeah,
I've consume you, man. I'm sorry for cursing.
No, you can cuss.
I've heard it.
Cuss.
I've heard
it. That's what I'm saying. Like, some of these guys, they're not good up here.
Yeah.
And then it goes to training too. You know how many times a year they train to shoot? I bet you can't get no.
No, I know, because my kid's father is a police officer.
That's it.
Once a year.
And they have to
they
have to qualify.
I've been through the academy.
Yeah.
I know what it's like.
A 19-year-old kid, you're gonna teach him how to shoot a gun once a year.
Once a year, that's it. They gotta qualify.
They have to qualify
once a year.
Once a year, and half of them can't even shoot.
Nope.
And yeah, I said it. Half of y'all can't even shoot.
And they barely make it, because sometimes they gotta take the course twice because they didn't qualify the first time. So the next time you do it, well, you out.
Everybody thinks cops can shoot. No.
Not all of them qualify.
No.
So what happened? Like,
Okay,
what? Tell me the story with that. What happened?
So I had a prior incident with Seminole County Sheriff's Office, which I was in the wrong.
Okay.
And we can say that for another show.
Okay.
But I was in the wrong, and I was cleared of it. But once I was called to go back to work, it was like Halloween time, and I was outside watching my. It was actually Halloween day. I was washing my wife's car, and it was like 6 o'clock in the evening, and black SUV pulls up to my house with hoodies and masks on. 4 individuals. So what do you think that is? First glance, does that scare you or not?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And in your neighborhood, somebody just pulls up in a black SUV, hoodies and masks on Halloween day at 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Hey.
What do you think? And my little girl's behind me. What are you gonna think?
You gonna think you need to defend yourself.
That's how people get shot, man.
Yeah.
That's how people get shot.
You know what I'm saying? So my wife was pregnant at the time with my youngest daughter. I went and told her, what happened, and she kind of got scared, but I think it was because she was pregnant or whatever. But whatever. So I went out and I said, I'm gonna go take a ride around the neighborhood because it's my neighborhood.
Yeah.
My kids live here, and I don't care what anybody says. My kids live here. I'm gonna go check it out. So I went around the neighborhood. In hindsight, I probably should have just stayed home, but still, it happened. So I went around the corner, and it was a female with her kids and her husband, and she right away approached my vehicle and was like, "Hey, it was a joke." And I said, "Ma'am," and we got into a little verbal.
Right, because
And
you
I
know
said,
that's
"Man,
not funny.
You don't live here. I don't know you. You don't know me. What if I would have shot at you?"
Right.
You know? And I didn't have a pistol at the time, so I couldn't take anything to protect myself. So I had a shotgun, and I wedged it in between the seats of my truck to where you can't see it. The only way you can see it is if you got your head in my car.
Right.
Which she did.
Okay.
So she sees the gun, and she calls me. She says, "N-word, what you gonna do with that?" And being in the position I was, I said, "I'm gonna leave," because her husband was puffing his chest and doing all that. So I said, "Let me get out of here." So I leave. She calls the police and says that I pointed an assault rifle at her in broad daylight. And nobody saw that but her.
And you know what's funny about the story that you're telling is...
Hold on.
Hold on, wait. I got to say this. Because it's important. I want to say this. Is that when you first went around there, sir, it was a joke. We didn't mean it. And when she saw you had a gun, then you was a nigga.
Well, she was Spanish, so
it don't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying.
But she was like, "What you gonna do with that?"
Right.
I'm like, "Come on, man."
But I'm just saying. But you see how that shift changed in the conversation, because either way it goes, it's like
it got aggressive.
You know what I mean?
It got aggressive. So that's when I saw that. I said, "Let me get out of here, because I'll probably get in more trouble." So she called the cops. Cops came, and one of the cops that I knew was one of the guys that came on the scene. He calls me up. I go talk to him. I tell him the same exact story I just told you guys. And he said, "Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it." Okay, man. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for all this to happen. All that. The next day, the same police department came to my house and put me in handcuffs and told me that I'm under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon. Now, I'm in front of my house in handcuffs, embarrassed. And they had to go around the corner, and they asked my neighbor, which lived in the house in front of where the incident happened, and she coincided with my story. Mind you, I didn't know her at the time. I knew who she was, but I never talked to this lady. So, long story short, the beloved sheriff of Seminole County told me it's in his best interest that I be terminated, because he's going to look bad to the citizens of Seminole County. Now, that same guy, I have yet to see him on TV in his community. But that's just what I'm thinking. I don't know what he's doing, but I have yet to see him on TV talking to his community. I see his deputies, but I never see him.
So do you feel that you were used as a political scapegoat?
Hell yeah.
Why?
Because too many important people were involved in that little incident by itself. That were higher up, that could have got hung, and they got me because I'm replaceable. Right. I'm just a deputy. I'm at the bottom.
Right.
I'm replaceable, and all of y'all are replaceable. So all y'all doing all this Superman stuff on the street, once you do something wrong, you out of there. They don't care about you, bro. These people don't care about you.
So it's like it's almost like they're walking on eggshells as well.
You're
they gotta
under the microscope all the time.
Yeah.
Wow. That's and I can definitely understand why you're saying you're glad you're not there, because
you think it's a good time to be a cop right now?
Probably absolutely
not. I know a lot of cops, and I fear for them, man, because they're guys like me.
They get caught up in the
rap. I don't hang out with them fools. I hang out with guys like me, and they're out there, for $40,000 a year or so, risking their lives.
Yeah.
And they're guys like me and you.
And they getting bad reps for the ones that are
for
bad, for the bad apples, for the cops that are not good, that are racist and blatantly racist.
And that's why, and a lot of the public, we understand that, and I'm sure you understand that a lot of people that are out here rallying, they not anti-police, they anti-racism, they anti-police brutality.
That's why I said, it's violence with a cause. Yes. So if you're going to be violent, do it for that.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that's why we need police reform for people just like you. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm free of all that. I don't broke chains. I went through a lot with getting let go from there.
Right.
But now that I look back, man, that's the best thing that ever happened to me, my family. Shout out to my wife.
Hey, Bonnie. Hey.
But it's the best thing that ever happened to me, man. I will never go back to that, man.
Man, and before we go to commercial break, before we bring our next guest, I just want to ask, do you feel that the police and justice system needs to be reformed?
Yeah, man. I think not only reformed, but I think, like I said earlier, get your man, dude. hold each other
accountable.
Y'all on the same team, dude. Hold each other. If your boy is messing up, hey, my man, nah, we ain't doing that. Because he's gonna listen to your fellow officer before he's listening to you.
Yeah,
absolutely. Man, we ain't doing that.
But too often times, from observation and from my own personal experience, they get somebody like you get called in the backup, and unfortunately, you get drugged in to his mess.
That's true. But then again, a lot of these guys, they don't pay attention. If so and so, hey, I'm getting a call from so and so. Hey, TJ, go with me, man, because I don't trust you, man. It happens.
Wow.
It happens within the cop. Hey, you go right with me, bro, because you know how he is. Y'all done heard stories about this dude. I ain't trying to get caught up in that. So use your peers, man, because if you're out there with a zone partner, and that's your boy, and y'all out there with a third who's always messing up, yo, stick with your people, man. Don't go over there by yourself because you know this fool's gonna act up.
Yeah, that's good advice right there, man.
And I know we're going to
hold yourself, get your man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need. We need police accountability, man.
But you know what? I just had someone kind of make a good point and say you can't reform something that wasn't meant to save you anyway. Because if you think about it, police was started as the KKK to make sure that slaves. So police wasn't even established for that purpose. But it has, of course, over time, become something different. But I think that's probably why the good cops are not the majority, because it wasn't even
and
established.
A lot of the good cops try to stay away because they gotta feed people, man.
Yeah, and that's the hard part about it.
They have to turn that blind eye because they know
they gotta feed people, man. What if you gotta feed kids?
Yeah,
absolutely.
You got it. Sometimes you got it, man, and that's the nasty part of it.
Yeah, and so right before we go to break, I just want to say this last thing. Some of the ones that are speaking up and speaking out about it tends to get retaliated on by, we had to fire this officer because of policy violations. It's not that you read it, but
that's what it is.
Things that you've done that normally they would have said, you fine, whatever. Now they can enforce that bylaw.
Lastly, I think that all of this that's going on is lack of training. Like I said, it's a lack of training.
Most countries have more than 11 weeks. They have more than 11 weeks.
You giving a 19-year-old after a few weeks a badge and a gun, and you expect a 19-year-old dude not to have some testosterone,
right? Some ego, especially if it's somebody that was bullied back in the day or some shit.
It's a lot of those. It's a lot.
Absolutely.
It's more than you think.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of them. We call them new cops.
Oh yeah.
Because they come in there and
there it is.
Hey bro, don't Superman this because
big
here hurt.
Big swollen in the chest. So coming at the bottom of the hour, man, we have our we have our next guest, and he's actually going to be answering a lot of questions that we want to know the answers to, and I can't wait.
Me neither.
So make sure you go grab your glass of wine, your cognac, whatever's going to make you feel right, and like we always say, keep it locked. The best is yet to come. Let's go. What's happening, family? We back, man.
Oh, right.
And, we're doing that one right there.
Okay.
So,
Right.
so we're back, and we're just discussing a lot of the different discussions that we've been having. Mainly focused on social injustice, and we just heard from a former law enforcement correctional officer some of the things that he's seen, some of the things that he's heard and had to go through, and was politically used as a scapegoat based on his time in the force. Now, joining me tonight is a very great friend of mine. He's also is still active and has a firsthand knowledge of what's going on behind the scenes per se. And I just want to welcome welcome my good friend Chris Morrison,
Why be feeling
attorney
like
at law.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us. And we're going to actually dive right into it because one of my co-hosts, who's sitting in the funny chair right now, has a question that he's been dying to ask and wanted to know the answer to.
Absolutely, man. So, at some point in anyone's life, you may get pulled over in a simple routine traffic stop. And I think one of the things that people need information on, because we just simply don't know, is what are our rights in a routine traffic stop, and what should we do in that traffic stop?
Well, what should you do and what are your rights are two different things.
Okay, we'll start with what are our
Yeah,
rights.
what are your rights? If it's a non-criminal
Yes.
traffic stop, you're not required to provide any evidence against yourself. You are required to give basic information such as your name, your insurance information, that sort of stuff. You are required to do so though, because you're being detained at that point. You're not being charged, you're not being arrested, but you're required to do that. So giving them the basic information is the bare minimum of what you are required to do. Now, rolling up your window and saying, I'm not going to talk to you until your sergeant arrives, is probably not a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, after I've given that basic information, if I say, hey, I've given my license, my registration, I told you my name, I don't wish to have any further comments, am I allowed to do something like that?
Do something like what? Say, I don't care to have any more discussion with you?
Yes. Yeah. After I've satisfied the minimum requirements.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, but you are required to remain there until you're released from the detention.
Okay, understandable. All right. If it's a non-criminal traffic stop, if I just got stopped because my lights were out or my tail lights out or whatever have you, I have a bad tail light or something like that. If I was speeding under 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, and they say, hey, let me search your car, do I have to allow them to search my car?
Absolutely not. You can tell them you choose not to let them search the car.
Just like that.
It's
Just
really
like that.
simple. It's really that simple. They have to have probable cause in order to initiate a search without your consent, and that is seeing the bloody knife on the seat next to you.
Yes.
Yeah, we finna search the car.
Roach
Smell
in the
the marijuana,
ashtray,
they
yeah.
pull over yeah,
We
exactly.
finna search the car.
You have to have the probable cause in order to search without consent.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is that like, so when you say probable cause, that's not necessarily like just their own judgment?
No, speculation is not probable cause.
Well, where do you draw the line?
Right.
That's the question.
Yeah.
As I said, the bloody knife on the seat.
Right. That's an obvious. Or you let the window down and he, all right,
No,
they go to, you know what I mean?
yeah.
But just I don't like the fact that you don't want to talk to me, so I'm gonna search your car.
Because you got something to hide.
I feel like you hiding something.
Or in a
So we gonna search
situation
your
like
car.
you don't want to let me search. Well, I'm going to get the dog.
Okay.
And then the dog falsely alerts. You told me the dog alerted in the front of the car. You search the front of the car. You don't find anything. And now you need to search my trunk. I don't drive a Ferrari, sir.
Well, if the dog alerts, then maybe there is probable cause at that point. That they don't need to go get a warrant.
So,
Yeah, so it can definitely be some.
The slippery slope is the question that you're asking. Where do you draw the line?
Right.
Are there any other things that a citizen should know, besides search and see when do they have the right to decline a search, and also, what's required of them as far as minimum requirements and things of that nature?
Well, yeah, legally you're required to stay there while you're being detained, and you're required to give the basic information.
Mhm.
What you ought to know, which in the law, is do what your mother told you to do. Be polite.
Okay.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And I guarantee it'll get done a lot quicker and without a lot more trouble than if you're giving them attitude.
And if you don't have nothing to hide, let them search.
Mm-mm.
So they can look like idiots.
Mm-mm.
So that's what I'll do.
What if they put?
Bro, I ain't got nothing in here.
What if they put drugs in your car?
I mean, it's a risk either way.
That's risk either way. So the next question that that comes to mind that a lot of people is asking is, do you feel that some officers abuse their power and try to take advantage of people who may not know the law?
I would say in all professions. When you're dealing with somebody who isn't adept at the profession that you practice, you want to try to get one over on them. So I'm not going to suggest that they haven't overstepped their boundaries. Law enforcement hasn't overstepped their boundaries. But it's something that we were talking about earlier when I was in the green room. I think, and I haven't looked up these statistics yet. I did a whole bunch of statistic searches for y'all that you might find interesting. But I believe right now your first year law enforcement officer has a college degree. The vast majority of them do. So you might think differently.
Yes and no. But I mean, even the guys with degrees, they still don't know what they're doing.
Clearly. But that is one more step closer to the profession of policing or law enforcement.
Right. Okay, perfect. Now, with everything that's surrounding the most recent tragedy, killings of unarmed Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and sadly now George Floyd. As an attorney, do you feel that the police reform is needed, and why?
Well, let's break those three down.
Okay.
The first one, and she was the young lady who was asleep in bed.
Mm-hmm.
That was just, there's no way of looking at it, a huge mistake, a horrible tragedy. And police reform, let me ask you, what do you think the police could have done differently? They executed the warrant in the wrong house. They made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow there were shots fired by law enforcement, and that started all the gunplay. That is a horrible, horrible tragedy. Police reform, maybe some additional training, but that's unfortunately one of those things that happened.
Because wasn't it what time was it when they went over there? Wasn't it like
I believe it was the middle
in the middle of the
while people
night?
sleep.
So why wouldn't I be startled if you didn't kick my damn door in?
Totally.
I'm shooting.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I don't know that she was the one who fired the first shot.
Well, if you bring it in my house, that's
Right,
the first thing I'm
but
doing.
and regardless,
With
it's
no one
like
saying, "Hey,
did
this
nobody
is
have
such
that
and so-and-so?"
conversation? Y'all, it's in the middle of the night, so there may be, you know what I mean? Like,
So do you get that? Do you get that right to go ahead and do a no knock, no say, hey, Yankee Doodle, how to do? I'm such and so. Open the goddamn door, whatever you want to do. Is that how they teach it in the academy?
That's what it goes back to training, man.
And
the warrant they got allowed them to do it, and I believe they went to the wrong house. As I said, it's a horrible, horrible, horrible tragedy. There's no way to even second guess that.
Mm-hmm.
With respect to the gentleman up in Georgia, that wasn't law enforcement. That was a couple of rednecks who decided they were going to do their own policing out there. So, criminal justice reform. Right now, criminal justice system's being busy. It's prosecuting those guys, assuming they committed the crime. It sure looks like they did some stupid stuff,
right,
if not criminal stuff. Now, obviously, the one that brought us here.
Right.
Again, I think training would be a significant help under those circumstances. What I understand from all my law enforcement buddies, and same place we're all looking on the internet doing our own research.
Yeah.
Once they get them in handcuffs, once they get them restrained, that
fight's over.
It's not over, but it's to get them off their stomachs.
It's
Get them
de-escalating.
off their stomachs.
Yeah,
Get them
de-escalate
on
is the key.
If he's fighting, put him in the car. The car's not yours anyway.
So again, it was a horrible, horrible lack of judgment, mistake. If you want to say that the gentleman woke up, the law enforcement officer woke up in the morning and said, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to kill somebody today, then you're sorely mistaken. I'd have a tough time under any circumstances believing that's what his intentions were.
But I also think that Officer Chow, or whatever his name is, you're standing there watching that, and the man says he said it 16 times.
but you know what he said? If he can talk, he can breathe.
I understand that, but it's for
That was
y'all.
I'm saying, but that was his response.
I get
He's
it.
talking so he can breathe.
Yeah, for a little bit.
What kind of shit is
Well, let me
that?
ask you this: as a former CO, how often did the inmates say, "I can't breathe"?
All the time.
Exactly.
Well,
that's something that they deal with quite often in law enforcement.
And
That's something that the people deal with. They say, "I can't breathe. I'm having a heart attack. I'm having whatever."
But
It's just
it
one of
goes
these
back
things
to
that quite often
training
happen.
and common sense.
Well,
He can't breathe. Maybe he
He's not a
can.
physician. He screwed up though.
Let me pull him on
Right.
the side.
No
If
question.
he can't breathe, he's already handcuffed.
And he's being prosecuted.
And it's for y'all.
Yeah.
He's being prosecuted.
Which actually brings me to the next question about being prosecuted. We know that the former officer has now been charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter, in which most people feel that the charges should be high as first-degree murder. Based on the manner of how George Floyd was killed, explain to us the process that takes place when deciding what to charge someone with.
Well, what a prosecutor wants to do is prove the case that the prosecutor can prove, that he or she can get a conviction on. Now, just a few minutes ago, I said, you don't think that officer woke up in the morning and said, I'm going to find somebody and kill him? And I saw a lot of people nodding their heads in this room. And that's first-degree murder. Premeditated. I'm intending to kill this person. I'm intending to cause great bodily harm to this person. Again, he messed up. He's not a cop anymore. He's being prosecuted. But he didn't set out that day to say, I'm going to kill somebody. He didn't set out when he first had the interface with the gentleman, I'm going to kill this guy. He messed up. He messed up hugely.
He's messed up. He's messed up quite a few times. 17 times to be exact.
And then didn't he know George Floyd?
Yeah.
There was evidence that the two of them had crossed paths a few times before, which also might mean that he knows that he can be violent. That the
That's
gentleman
true.
that he's
give
taking
him that.
into
That's true.
custody
He might know him and
can
have
be
a
violent.
Because I think somebody was saying they did security
But
together.
that's on speculation.
Well, I think it's speculation that he's been charged. He's had 17 different incidents.
I saw that on the New York Times. I'm just going on.
A lot of things in the news.
I'm just going on what I saw. I could be wrong.
But yeah, we don't know. We don't know what happened. And again, that gets to your question as well. That's why we have judges. That's why we have juries. That's why we have courts.
And which actually brings me to the next question of, before we get to the jury, is that once charges are filed, can charges be increased to a higher charge once they are filed?
Yeah, they can. It's more difficult to do, and there's a lot of procedural issues with that. But the long and short of it is, they may, if there's new evidence, new information comes to light, that would be helpful. Now, if we got the law enforcement officers' Facebook post that morning says, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get myself somebody, that's a different story altogether. But the short end is it's difficult, but it may be done to charge up. I'll give you an example of where they were overcharged, and that's a problem. We talked about what a prosecutor wants to do, and the prosecutor wants to be able to convict the person. Something we all know. There was a young lady who we all know killed her daughter here in Orlando. Mm-hmm. Think somebody was overcharged there? Yeah, she was overcharged. They thought they could give her the death penalty. They thought they could convict her of first-degree murder. They didn't even find the body until during the trial. So she was overcharged. And that is a circumstance where we can overcharge and then lose the conviction altogether.
And that's the difference between overcharging and undercharging, and being able to increase the charges based on whatever new light of evidence you've come across to say, hey, you know what? I think we now can get this based on what we didn't have before, so we can now increase it. Just like sometimes you get, somebody get battery and they're in the hospital clean for life. You're just charged with aggravated, assault or whatever, and now all of a sudden that person dies from what you just did. So what they've done? They've increased the charges now because now they're dead. So now you got a decision to make. Okay, was it murder 1, 2, and 3? Unfortunately, Florida is one of those states, along with Minnesota and Pennsylvania, who are the only states that have 3-degree murders. Any other state, it would have been second-degree murder, easy, because that's the only thing that's left. So I think, at this point here, as an attorney, do you feel that there's a systematic failure within the justice system, especially towards people of color and minorities?
Clearly, there's a problem. The statistics don't bear it out, though, and that's what we were talking about before. Well, I'm the one that got pulled over and got searched. Statistics don't bear that out. And if we look at the statistics, there's between 800 and 1 million certified law enforcement officers in the United States right now. And there's about 55 million interactions with people. And of the roughly 1 million law enforcement officers and the 55 million interactions that occur during the year, last year just over 1,000 people were killed in law enforcement activity. And that includes justifiable homicide. They shot at me first, I shot back. That includes true medical conditions where there was a heart attack or some other event that wasn't necessarily related to the arrest. So if we bear out the statistics, if we really did the math, that would be fewer than 0.00002 deaths. And those deaths, again, don't account for the entirety of police misconduct.
Right.
So statistically, they don't bear out, but clearly there's something going on. Clearly there's something going on. And where do we fix it?
And that's the next question. How and what can be done so that this doesn't continue to happen?
Well, let me put that back at you. What do you think should be done so that this doesn't happen again?
Well, it definitely starts on the local level, because that's where most of it always starts, and putting people in positions that understands what's happening, instead of turning that blind eye, instead of saying, hey, you know what, I want to look out for myself, or you know what, let me just I'm gonna just keep quiet because I know it's wrong, but I ain't gonna say nothing.
Training, just as Jose talked about, and that's what Jose hit on hard, and I don't think anybody would dispute that more training.
But it has to be
would
the
be helpful.
right training, man. All this paperback crap that they're telling these guys when they go to the academy, if you're gonna do this, you gotta give it to them blood raw, man. They gotta know what they're getting into. They gotta know that this might ruin your life.
Because
any mistake might ruin your life.
Some of them just tap out. And I mean, I'm in corporate America. When I get a new trainee, and they say, "Hey, TJ, we want this person to sit with you. We want you to, teach them the ropes, whatever." First thing I tell them, hey, listen, that's just the procedural stuff in the classroom, the basics that you need to know. Let me tell you how it is when you get on the phone.
That's how we used to tell them. Hey, man, throw that book away, man. We don't do that.
Well, let me ask you this. Talk about the classroom. Do we all agree that classroom teachers should be paid better?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, then do we think maybe law enforcement officers should be paid better so that we can get a better caliber of law enforcement officer there?
Yes,
That makes sense.
yes and no, but there's some cops out there that make pretty good money.
Yeah, there is,
That makes
especially when
sense.
you're doing extra shifts and those sorts of things as
A
well.
lot
Absolutely.
of cops that make good money, man. So,
Absolutely.
And honestly, the guys that do make a lot of money are doing the events like the football games,
Yeah.
stuff like. Those guys ain't the ones getting into that stuff, but there's cops that were making $100K where I work, man.
Well, there's turnover at the lower level, just like any other profession, and the ones that stick for a while. And I know the gentleman the law enforcement officer up in Minnesota, like he was on for 17 years. He'd been around for a while, so doesn't really support my theory. But I think that the better ones remain for the longer. Sorry, buddy.
So,
And I also, again, it's a profession, and I think, again, statistically, I wasn't prepared to deal with that statistic. I think statistically, you're going to find that more law enforcement officers are college educated. Every year, it gets to be more. And that, again, there's no guarantee,
But I mean,
but
I
it
don't
certainly
think
is one step in the right direction.
college education doesn't. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that being educated in college is gonna help you that much on the street when you got to deal with everyday, day-to-day stuff. Like calculus ain't gonna teach you how to not put your knee on somebody's neck.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And not to take away from what you said, but I just think that kind of training needs to be more raw. It can't be like in a classroom setting. It has to be more person-to-person type of training. It can't be, and it has to be more often. It can't just be once a year.
Yes.
right, and I agree. And one of the viewers are tuning in before we actually close it out for tonight. They just want to know what do you think needs to be done at this point? Now that it's gotten to this level and this magnitude, what do you think needs to be done at this point
Well, I'm gonna tell you
besides
what-
training?
Yeah, what I think doesn't need to be done, and that is violence. And again, when I was in the green room, I heard you guys talking about the violence and almost condoning the violence. That's not going to help.
But that's my personal opinion.
That's not going to help.
But as
That's
you might
not
have
gonna
heard,
help.
we don't condone it. But at this point, when we've tried everything peaceful
We
and
are
really haven't gotten the results that we're looking for, then it's like, okay,
What else,
when
Steve?
we give up, well, what's it gonna take?
That's why I think it's necessary sometimes.
Do you believe, though, that the violence, now that the media is all following the violence, following the looting, do you believe that we kind of missed the point as to why people?
No.
That is a danger.
I think the looters are missing the point.
The looters may miss the point, but nobody, you cannot tell me there's anybody on this goddamn earth that does not get the point. I don't condone violence. I don't condone stealing and all that stuff like that, but I get the point. Like, if you done been slapped so many times, that at some point, fuck that. Fuck that. Like, I need something to happen. Like, unfortunately, us getting out here in these streets and marching and protesting has led to that. But at this point, I don't give a damn, because we march every time something happens. You think about Martin Luther King was killed. What do? They got out there, they marched $47 million worth of damage, and then they passed something. So at this point, like, we've been marching for a long time, and all of this stuff has been like, we act like this is the first time looting has happened. Look at what happened with Rodney King's situation. So this isn't new shit, but it's like, it's 2020. Why is it 2020 and we're still having to do this shit?
Well, you talked about Dr. King. We all know Alveda King, don't we? His niece?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You know what she said? No peace, no justice. She said no peace, no justice. If we don't have peace, we don't have justice.
So what were we doing that wasn't peaceful that led to a man being killed in the streets? And then what have we? I feel like we have not done anything. Black people have been living their lives, but yet still our black people are being killed.
Just a quick
and we're supposed to peacefully say, can y'all please make sure these people go to jail?
If we did rally and loot, he wouldn't have even been prosecuted
at all.
Oh, that I just don't agree with.
Wow, cause we can.
If it wasn't for the rallies for Aubrey, there was no prosecution.
We can go on.
Okay.
With this, cause like I said, I mean, we got this, the short window, and my thing at this point here is that there's definitely something that needs to change, and at the end of the day, it has to start somewhere. We have to find out the how and what can be done at this point, because I mean, at this point, enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
So next week, I just want to leave you guys right now with just a little clip of what has happened, because my heart, my prayers go out to all the families that are out there. I want to thank my special guest, attorney Chris Morrison, my good man Jose Gonzalez, and of course, the man in the funny chair behind him, comedian Loose Cannon, and my lovely and beautiful, talented co-host Morgan Williams, and me, your host, TJ Chatman. Thank you guys for tuning in. Change is going to come. It has to come. Enough is enough. So until next week, keep it locked. The best is yet to come. Let's go.